So what we have here is we have my symmetrical design. I got my symmetrical design, and then what I also have is the two tracings, right? You guys traced yours already. Top layer, you notice that I have the two smaller shapes. Bottom layer is the bigger shape. You also, at this point, should have labeled one with a C, one with a B for brass and copper. All right, so now, for you, Diamond, you've got to know how to glue this. We paint the back of the metal, or the top of the metal, I should say, and the back of the paper with rubber cement. Rubber cement is a contact cement, so when it comes in contact with itself, when it is dry, it will stick. Make sure we cap up the rubber cement right away. And now I'll make sure that these are dry. You wait till we start filing.
Oh my god, I can't. My teeth. I don't like hearing that. That's making.
And then we stick that on there like this. Once that is stuck and it's not moving, we're ready to saw. So now, you need a small stool. I have my saw frame. The saw frame has a small little lip here. That's what's used to put up against the table, okay? As we reviewed here in the beginning of class. I check the teeth, make sure that the teeth are pointing down. Then I load this into the saw frame at the top, compress this with my body, load it into the bottom lug, release my body weight, pluck it, make sure that it's got a high-pitched sound. That means it's loaded correctly. Now, when you're sitting down, the reason why these stools are so low is because you want to be chest high with the bench, with the jeweler's bench when you're sawing. You want to also make sure if you're right-handed that the bench pin is off your right shoulder so that your arm is at a nice 90-degree angle. When you start to saw, you're going to find the edge of the metal and you're going to get started. Notice that my saw blade is straight up and down. It's not angling forward. It's not angling side to side. It is straight up and down. I'm trying to brace the metal on the inside of this V so that the metal is braced on both sides of the V. I don't want it to just be braced on the one side because it could tip and then break my blade. So I'm going to start sawing. When I get to the line, I'm going to just allow the saw blade to sort of flow around the line. As I'm sawing, I'm moving it and turning it, but I have to be moving the saw blade straight up and down and in a sawing motion, moving that blade. Otherwise, if I try to just turn it like this and try to move it, it's going to bind up. So if it binds up on you, you can't move it like this. Just release it. You can see it spring back, and then now the blade should move freely. Once the blade moves freely, when I'm going to turn, I have to move it up and down like this and turn at the same time. Once it's facing in the right direction, I can then start to saw. This becomes very, very smooth the more you do it. And it gets easier the more you do it. In the very beginning, you're going to bind up blades, you're going to break blades. They're not going to saw very smoothly. Try to keep, whenever possible, your fingers behind the blade. And saw around the outside edge. Now, at this point, if you're sawing and you accidentally tip the piece of metal and you're sawing and it tips off and then it breaks the blade, we've got to reload it and we've got to get it back into where we were sawing. Now, just keep in mind, for safety reasons, make sure that you're aware. I mean, obviously, this is a hand tool. It's not a power tool. You're in control of this. Make sure that you're taking your time when you're sawing. You're not rushing. You're not trying to force it. If you force it too much, what's going to end up happening, you could run this blade right into your finger or something like that whenever it breaks. Another key thing is in the hand that you're using, do not grip the saw frame too tightly. Grip it with a nice loose grip so that you're able to saw in a nice smooth way without, if you grip it too tight, most times what you're doing is you're going to be sawing in a very jerky, very erratic way. So you want a loose grip. All right, so I'm going to reload something and get it in there for you. Reload this blade, check the teeth, make sure they're pointing down to the handle, set it in the top lug, compress it with my body, tighten the bottom lug, release that, pluck it, we're good. Now, to get it in there, I can saw my way in there like this. That's one way. All right. I don't ever want to do this. If I do this, I see this from Jewelry Ones. They bend it up, and then they're trying to force it in there, and then it gets real springy, and it ends up binding the blade and breaking more blades. If you want to get rid of that, if you don't want to saw through there, then just come in from the other side, saw right into the edge, and there you go. You can get rid of that. This goes into the scrap bin inside the cabinet. In that green bin, you can see all that scrap metal that's in there. And then you can start sawing. Any questions? All right, that was kind of abbreviated, but the idea.